We got good attitudes about this stuff today?
Yeah.
All right, so the first three are really easy problems. All right, everybody should be able to knock the first three out just like this. Look at number one. If that's a formula, it's going to be a really easy problem. So look at your sheet. Look where it says Pythagorean identities. Josh says it equals 1. Does everybody see where cosecant squared minus cotangent squared is 1? All right, so we got 1/4 times 1 plus 6.75. Now you just type that in your calculator and give me an answer. 7? All right, answer 7. Any questions? Good, let's go to number 2. All right, I want you guys to go through first and change anything that you can change. So,
room, please report to the 100 hall at this time.
all right, so if the bottom changes the sign squared, now see what you can cross out, see what your answer is. Mark out one sign on top, one sign on the bottom. There you go. All right, so correct. You can mark out one side on the top and one side on the bottom. So look, you're left with cosine over sine, which changes to cotangent. All right, everybody go to number 3. Number 3 is also an easy problem. These first 3 are really... All right, so first 3 were easy. Number 4 is the first one that's any challenge at all, and it's not bad. All right, so give me some suggestions on what we can change. What do I change the top into?
Tan squared.
Where'd y'all find that at?
Formula sheet.
Formula sheet. Secant squared minus 1 changes to tan squared. Make sure you can find that on your sheet. Make sure you're familiar with this. All right, the bottom is secant. But we can change that into, if secant's 1 over cosine, then I can make that 1 over cosine squared. All right, any questions so far? All right, anything else we can change? Yeah, tan squared we can change into sine squared over cosine squared. All right, last step, like most of the more difficult problems, is keep, change, flip. I'll stop, let you. All right, keep, change, flip. Let's see what we get. All right, these cosines mark out, answer sine squared. All right, so that one was the hardest one so far, but that's not bad. We definitely can have that one on test. Once you get it down to one word, Laney, you're good. Stop. All right, I think we did 5 this morning in first block, and I think we decided 5 is pretty much like number 4. So I'm going to stop and let y'all do 5, just like you did 4. All right, so I don't have a sheet. Nipper, what's 1 plus tan squared change into?
Secant squared.
All right, so the top changes to secant squared. Now, secant squared turns into 1 over cosine squared. Tangent squared turns into sine over cosine. I'm going to go ahead and flip that into cosine over sine. So I skipped a step there. I hope that's okay. Cosines cancel. I'm left with 1 on top and sine squared on bottom. Now, can I leave it like that? They don't want you to leave it like that. They want you to turn it into one word. What does 1 over sine squared turn into? Right here. 1 over sine is cosecant, so that would be cosecant squared. So 4 and 5, very similar problems. All right, we can go to 6. All right, first block. We looked up 6 this morning, and one of the kids said, Coach, that's a formula right there. So we looked on the paper. That's what it says on the paper for your formula sheet. Cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. So does that equal 1 too? No, it's got to be exactly. So we can't use that. So we're going to have to full this out on this one. No other way around it. We did full a couple times yesterday, and every time we did full yesterday, what happened with what's in the middle? It marks out.
Coach Heron,
Yes, ma'am.
can I see Dallin Lowe with his keys in the front office for a moment?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so nothing I can change in the first parenthesis. Just bring it down. Guys, y'all need to change both of those. So look at the board, make your changes, then start your full method, and I'll finish it up for you.
When you
Cosecant changes to 1 over sine. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Cotangent changes to cosine over sine.
Okay, so then when you distribute, would you put the sign on the bottom?
All right, so time out. There's more than one way you can do these. Josh he was doing them a different way yesterday, getting the same thing we were getting. But every time we had one like this yesterday, guys, I think the best way is to full it out.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but do you put sign on the bottom?
So, let's go through it step by step, and maybe that'll answer your question. I'm not sure what you're asking, Caleb. 1 times 1 over sine, guys, that's just 1 over sine.
Okay, so you put sign on the bottom?
Yeah.
The bottom has to.
1 times that fraction is just going to be cosine over sine. So those were easy. When you times by 1, you just bring them down. All right, this is where I was losing some of y'all yesterday. What do we get when we times these two? Well, think about it. That's cosine over 1, right? So multiply straight across. Cosine times 1 gives me cosine on top and sine on the bottom. And then on the end, cosine times cosine is cosine squared. Sine stays on the bottom. All right, let's write that down.
Do you have to put one of these on the quiz?
I don't know if we'll be ready for this one on the quiz Thursday, but you will have something like this on the test next week.
It won't be next.
Not next week, y'all know when we get back, that's next week. The next week we're here. All right, so just like yesterday, does the middle cancel out on this one?
Yeah.
Yep. These cancel, because I got a plus cosine and a minus cosine, they cancel. So look what I'm left with, something that's being subtracted, so we gotta find the common denominator anytime you add or subtract. We went over that yesterday. Now, this one's easy because look, they already have the same thing on the bottom. So we get to skip all that extra work, put sine x on the bottom, because that's your common denominator. And you can just bring over what was on top of both of them, like this.
That's a formula.
It's a square. All right, and Nipper says that's probably a formula, and I think he's
One
right.
of them
Sign
dog
squared.
problems whenever it's different.
All right, so what's the final answer, Austin?
Sign.
Sign X.
Good, man, y'all getting better.
Wait.
All right, Austin said that's probably a formula, so look it up. So that turns into sine squared. Now mark off 1 sine on the bottom and 1 sine on the top. I still got 1 sine x on top for my answer. Yeah, that's a really good test problem, but not a quiz problem for Thursday.
Yeah. You leave the runner?
Nah, my grandma didn't repeat.
All right, so we're good on 6. All right, 7 we did yesterday. I didn't like it. It's probably not going to be on your quiz or your test, but it's a really good common denominator problem, so we're going to do it again. Okay? Can I mark these out? When can I mark them out? When it's times. Okay, so we can't mark any of those out, which means we've got to do the common denominator step. What's the common denominator going to be?
Sine and cos.
One of each, right? Sine and cosine. So I need y'all to write sine x and cosine x on the bottom. And I had y'all write it up here yesterday. Sine x and cosine x. All right, I'm giving y'all time to write it down. All right, let's do your cross out step. Remember, you can only cross something out if it's on the bottom. Sine's on the bottom. I can cross those signs out. I can't cross the cosines out, so I got to times them together and bring down cosine squared. Now do the same step on the other fraction. I can mark the cosines out because it's on the bottom. I can't mark the sines out, so what do? Times them and bring them down, okay? Now, anytime you've got something squared, it's a good chance it's a formula. Check your sheet. We're looking for sine squared plus cosine squared. So the answer is 1 on top, and you leave sine x on the bottom and cosine x. Sine x, cosine x on the bottom. And I know we did that one yesterday because I remember saying that I don't like this one because it doesn't end up being just one word, so I would not give you that one on test.
Oh, wow. It's kind of simple. I think it's
Yeah, but most of the time, if y'all can't get it to break down to just one word, you think you messed up and you asked 100 questions. So. All right, I think we're now just about ready to do one by ourselves. Y'all try it. And some people have cosine squared, and that looks to be the right answer. Let's check. All right, so we don't have to change this one. You do have to change cosecant into 1 over sine. And that stays sine over 1. All right, first question they had this morning. Can I mark these two signs out? Only if it's got times in between. We don't have times, so you can't mark them out. All right, so that means we got to distribute. So Austin just said, look, these are opposites of each other. When you times these, they should cross out. And they do cross out because, look, that sign cancels out that sign. So you're going to bring down 1 either way.
I thought opposite sign was cosine.
Sine is opposite of cosecant. But you're right. It should. You would think sine and cosine would be opposites for how they sound, but it's not right. All right, sine times sine is sine squared. So this is what we're left with. And that's the formula, right? Check your formula sheet. Anytime you got a 1 in your problem, check your formula sheet.
How do you get sine squared?
Sine times sine is sine squared. Nothing cancels because nothing's on the bottom, so you got to times them. So we're left with that, which is cosine squared. All right, flip it over. How we doing on 30 minutes? All right, 9 is pretty much a new problem. We didn't have 9 yesterday, so I'm going to walk you through that one really quick. All right, first step on 9. Let's change anything we can change. So I'm going to change secant on top, and I'm going to make it 1 over cosine. What else? I'm going to change this secant right here, and I'm going to make it 1 over cosine. All right, anybody got a question there? All I did was use my board and make my changes.
No, you cross out.
All right, now, any place you can multiply, remember, you have to multiply before you add or subtract. So, what's going to happen here with these two? Cancels out. I got a minus 1. Everybody see where I got the minus 1? What do we do right here? Well, anytime we have a fraction divided by a fraction, just keep change flip, right? So 1 over cosine, I'm going to flip this cosine over 1 and times it by 1 over cosine. That's going to give me 1 over cosine squared. Because nothing cancels out. They're both on the bottom, so you times them straight across, you get 1 over cosine squared. Now, can I change 1 over cosine squared into anything? That is secant squared. So I'm going to erase this and put secant squared. And I heard somebody say that's a formula. Answer's tan squared. All right, so that's a new problem. We didn't do that yesterday, but that one's on your test after spring break. All right, you guys should be able to do number 10. Try it. All right, let's see if we can do anything on this one. Well, I know I got to times these two first before I subtract. So, will anything cancel? No. So, I bring down my 1 over cosine x. I bring down my minus sign. And we got to multiply these two. And since we couldn't cancel anything, we multiply straight across. So, I got sine squared on top, cosine x on the bottom. All right, now, got to find a common denominator. What's going to make this one easy to do? They already have a common denominator. So, just bring cosine on the bottom 1 time, and you bring over anything that's on the top. So it's 1 minus sine squared. All right, y'all finish it from there and get an answer. All right, Caitlin, you should be able to go ahead and do number 11. All right, what'd y'all get? Let's see, that changed to cosine squared. 1 cosine marks out with 1 cosine there. We got cosine x. All right, so the last 4 problems are different. How are they different again? They got an equal sign. Every one of them's got an equal sign. So this is where you got to make the right side of the equal sign look exactly like the left side of the equal sign. So I noticed right off the bat, this is a formula. So I'm going to change that because I can make it into one word. And I'm going to leave sine squared on the right side. So now I'm going to try to make the left side equal sine squared. And this one looks to be pretty easy. All right, Landon, what can we change tangent squared into? Good. All right, Landon says this is sine squared and cosine squared. All right, anybody got a suggestion? These are crossed out. Look, you're left with sine squared on the left now, and that's what you had on the right as well. Now remember, we all know these are going to end up being equal on both sides, so you got to show me one step so I can see you know what you're doing. All right, do 12. It should be just as easy. Maybe not. 14 is probably easier than 12. All right.
Yeah, I don't see why.
Yep, y'all are going to have some questions on 13. All right, what's the problem asking on 13? Cosine of 2y. Okay, do we have anything close to that?
No.
Well, we got cosine 2x. Everybody find this formula right here. Y'all see it? Logan, make sure you find it. Right here, cosine 2x. Y'all see where it's got 3 different formulas you could use? Mark off the bottom 2. Everybody right now, we will never use the bottom 2. Logan, mark them off. We're only going to use the top one. Do I need to say that again? All right. All right, so that's the closest thing we had that matched up with it. Here's the only problem. The one on our sheet's got x's in it. We want y's in it, so we'll just replace the y's in for the x's. So our formula we're going to use is cosine squared y minus sine squared y. Everybody understand what I had to do? All right, so we used the formula for cosine 2x. We just changed out the x's and the y's. All right, so now's the easy part where you just plug it in your calculator. They're both going to be squared. You put cosine of y in this parenthesis. We have it back on 7, 8, or 9. I think you guys have already done it. It was 12 over 37 there. Sine of y is 35 over 37 here. Type that in your calculator, and I'll probably make it a decimal again.
Oh, you gotta square them?
Formula says you got to square them on this one. So 12 over 37, got to square it, minus 35 over 37, got to square it. Make it a decimal. All right, I got a negative, -0.7896. How's that look? Make sure you can type this in your calculator. Make sure you're not just copying mine.
I got it. I'll teach
Can't even see his calculator.
you. You put it good sign.
Yeah, fractions only, look at mine. There you go. Good call, Sam. All right, go to 14. All right, 14. We're looking for the formula tangent 2x. Where's it at?
2 tan x.
There it is. 2 tan x on top over 1 minus tan squared on bottom. Does everybody see where I got this formula from? So all we got to do is plug in tangent of x in this spot and in this spot. Now look, you already got tangent of x. What number was that? Tangent of x was your number 9. I just wrote it right here. All right, so we take 11 over 60, plug it here, and you plug it on the bottom, but on the bottom you got to square it, 11 over 60 squared. But it's the same number, you just plug it in both places. All right, now see if you can type it in. Square root button goes, no, we don't have a square root on here, sorry. Fraction button goes first. Bottom is 1 minus 11/60 squared. 0.3794. Check me on that. Have we had that answer before? All right, make sure you can type that in. Make sure you get the same answer I got.